Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala man la nabiyya ba'd. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I've been asked to say a few words to you, which inshallah will be some benefit to you. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all of our deeds in the month of Ramadan, as we are in the last 10 nights. They said the Ramadan comes every year, but we don't come every year. We're here now, we don't know about next year. But I was asked to speak to you about how I became a Muslim. And many of you I know, some of you I don't. My name is Br.Dawud. And generally speaking, when I meet people, the first question they ask me is, where are you from? Now that might be important, you know, what neighborhood I grew up in, what block I was on, or where I was raised. But I think it's more important that I tell you how I came to Islam. And maybe that will be a benefit to the people that we would say have been Muslim their whole life, or for someone who might be here who's a new Muslim. And how is it possible? How is it possible that I was like one of these people you see every day running around in New York City, doing everything that everyone that's not a Muslim might do? And I thought it was totally normal. I was having a good time. It seemed right. And everybody around me was saying, hey, you're doing the right thing, man. You're fine, you're fine. I wasn't a religious individual. I didn't read scriptures or anything like that. But how is it possible that now I'm sitting here in front of you? And it's only by the mercy of Allah. To take you back a little bit, I was probably a person that you could say was looking, but didn't know I was looking. I was doing all the things that everybody else did, but in the back of my mind and in my heart, I wasn't satisfied, and I was trying to find out what is the meaning of life, you know, what is all this about? It's still something that just didn't add up for me. So while I was in school and even after college days, I started to read about different religions. So I started reading about Buddhism, and I learned about that, and there was a lot of good things that I learned. But yet, there was still something that wasn't there. Something was missing. You know, something wasn't quite adding up. So I went on and I started learning more about Judaism, Rastafarianism. Of course, I grew up as a Christian, but I would say nominally I knew a little bit about Christianity. But the Trinity didn't make any sense to me. The idea that there was three gods, or God was one in three, didn't make sense to me. So I kept looking, and amazingly enough, and this is where I would say, how could this happen? There were certain people that probably looked like you, looked like anyone here who I work with, people I knew. They came to me and asked me, what do you believe? And they started to give me some information, which I didn't know at that point was dawah, but they were giving me a little bit of information about Islam. I said, read this, brother. So I began to reflect and think, you know, what do I really believe in? You know, what is the purpose of life? And I would go back and read, and you know, but I was still living the life that I was living. And one brother that I knew very well, he was recommended that I talk to him because he has some knowledge of Islam. And he did something that maybe none of us might do. He said, why don't you come to the Masjid and pray Jummah with me? I was like, I'm not a Muslim yet. I mean, I'm reading about it, but is that allowed? I mean, is it allowed to bring a brother to the Masjid who's not a Muslim? Can you bring him and have him pray with you? Is that allowed? Is it hard? Is it something wrong? Is there anything wrong with that? Brother said, you know what he said to me? He didn't give me a whole lot of books. He didn't give me a lot of information. He said, brother, come early, listen to the adhan, you get blessings for that. When I go down to make my ablution, just do what I do. Just do what I do. He didn't overcorrect me or, tell me a whole lot of things, change myself and change my name, anything. Just come and follow me. Just do what I do. So, took me to the Masjid a few times, the Jummah, and I was sitting there in the Masjid, and then when everybody went down to make sujood, I said, man, this is really praying. This is really, I'm physically going down and putting my face on the ground. That's not common. To us as Muslims, it's normal, but if you never did it, it's pretty, different. And then I said to myself, at that moment, Allah, put it in my heart that this is the real worship. Because all the questions that I had about those other religions, there was always a little hole, a little something, And Allah kept showing me the right way, giving me the information that I needed, the knowledge, bringing the right people to me. And those people took action by Allah's, permission. They took action and invited me here, gave me this to read, gave me that to read. And I called that same brother back, who I spoke to him last week. I called him back and I said, brother, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take Shahada. And at that particular time, he worked near the Masjid and I worked near the Masjid. So he said, well, meet me over there for Asr prayer. And, I took the Shahada and I looked out and I still was like, wow, I'm really doing this. But I was 100% certain that it was right. And alhamdulillah, it's the best thing that ever happened for me. Alhamdulillah. So couple of things that I would just say for the brothers here and sisters. One, if you, wherever you find yourself, okay, you're going to interact with people that were just like me, okay, more or less like I was, a regular individual walking around doing whatever, working, whatever you interact with people. And the title of today after Fajr is called Morning Light. And I would just encourage you to share a little bit of that light with whoever you can, because you never know, the person that you talk to might be like me sitting here one day and virtually by Allah's permission, and again, Allah is the one who guides us, but that person will, be a Muslim, and that will change his family, his whole lineage for the rest of the time, inshallah. So imagine now, maybe you just told them a little bit about Islam, or maybe your personality, your character, your kindness, maybe it was your generosity of your neighbors, and that's a golden opportunity that's amongst all of us. And I'm thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the people that I had around me, they did that. They took the challenge and did that. And in one case, I was someone's boss. I was actually his boss on the job. How many people give their boss dawah? My friend Abdul Wahid, I still talk to him. I talked to him in the beginning of Ramadan. He's the one. He said, I said to him, aren't you going to go to the President's Club, man? We're having a President's Club. We're going to Hawaii. It's going to be great. We're going to be on the beach and everything. He said, brother, I'm going to Hajj. So I was like, wow, this guy's giving up Hawaii? So that, in fact, affected me. And then for the people who we call the reverts or the converts, or people who, like myself, who seems like yesterday became Muslim, I would just say that the main thing that I would encourage you to do is to learn as much as you can about Islam every single day of your life and embrace the knowledge. I was fortunate to come here and learn from FCAD Institute even before it began. And then when we started, FCAD, and then now New York City Muslim Center, and I could say that now we're in another generation where the students are now teaching. And I would say that if you're a new Muslim, or if you've been a Muslim your whole life, take full advantage of whatever is available to you to learn more about your religion. And, that I think will help you, help your families, and, give you that type of continuous certainty that this is the right way. So those are just a few words, that I wanted to share with you. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. Yes, brother.
Thank you, brother, for sharing.
Oh.
How many years are you doing? How many years are you doing Islam?
I took Shahada in 1998, so it's about 21 years. Yeah, yeah. But you might laugh and say 21 years, but I was still not Muslim for many more years than I was a Muslim. So I still feel like I'm learning, and I still do this every day. I pinch myself because actually none of my friends around me or anyone that I knew, I didn't learn anything about Islam growing up, really. And it's only because, Allah chose me to be a Muslim. But yeah, 21 years.
How do you make dawah to your family?
Well, my family, I had questions, how do I give dawah to my family? I try my best to, first and foremost, I tried to, initially I was probably very, gung-ho, I was like, okay, this is it. And in the beginning, I'll be honest, some of the family members were like, hey man, come on, we're not, this is too much, I'm not ready, that's your religion, and I think they thought maybe I would, get over it in a couple of days and a couple of years. But as time has gone on, I've had the opportunity to share about Islam and most importantly through my, try to improve my behavior and my character and be better to my family. Unfortunately, or up until this point, no one, like my sisters or anyone, has taken Shahada. And my mother my mother who just passed away, we tried our best to give her the dawah, but it didn't happen by Allah's qadr. But Allah knows we tried our best to give her the dawah. But yeah, I think that's always the most important thing, and we try our best to continue with the rest of the family members. Yes, brother.
So my question is, what was like your biggest challenge initially after converting to Islam, you would say?
I think my biggest challenge for me was I was a very social individual. I went to I did a lot of social activities, parties. I was involved in all of the normal holidays that everybody does within the family, and my family is very close. My sisters, my friends, all the associates, and it was a little bit hard to figure out how to be in the family and work with the, be close to your family, not cut off the ties, but yet not participate in, certain holidays or activities. Because the day I took Shahada, there were already things on my calendar, right? Somebody's birthday party, somebody's this or that, it was already there. So I had to, it wasn't an automatic thing. It's not like a light switch goes off and you stop doing everything. It takes a little bit of time. And it was a little bit rougher, from that standpoint, and some of my friends left me, they said, they said, oh, why are you doing that? Only prisoners go to become Muslim, I was like, what? So I had a lot of, I lost some friends, but look at what I gained, alhamdulillah.
Any tips regarding the same issue? Tips in getting
Tips?
better?
Like,
When you try to do something right, but your family and friends are kind of avoiding you, and tips how to overcome those.
Sheikh Lou asked, what tips are there that, how do you avoid some of the issues that I was facing, or how do you deal with some of those issues? I think the first thing I think is that you have to realize, and it's not easy to realize in the beginning, that you made the change by Allah's permission. They didn't make a change. They're still thinking the way they were, and you shouldn't look down on anybody, and you shouldn't feel that you're responsible for making anyone change. But try your best to be, try your best to be a good person, a good friend, and be the generous individual in the group. Be the one who's most generous. That's what the Prophet Muhammad said. He was the most generous. And the people around him, they had no choice, many of them, even if they hated the things that he was doing as far as the Tawheed and the Dawah, they were like, that guy, And that's what we want to be. We want to be the one that the people say, that guy? He is, no, that guy? No, that guy? Mm-mm. That guy is the one that, yeah, I can talk to him, I can approach him. So remain approachable. Don't cut off yourself from the people. Even though, you might have to listen to a lot of things you don't want to hear, you might have things, just be patient. In time, they'll begin to accept you, and now my family's like, okay, we want to do something together, but it's Ramadan, and what's happening, and they're very respectful, So that's some advice. Yes, brother.
What advice do you have for Muslim Americans who are handling two identities that everyone should be aware of, are socially persecuted or socially not as accepted? So what is your advice for Muslims as well as minority Muslims, and how to handle that, and how to face like the racism that is within the Muslim communities as well as outside of the Muslim community?
Well, one thing that I have as an advantage, is a lot of experience growing up as an African American in America here. It is impossible that you don't experience racism in your life. It's something that is built into your daily existence. Wherever you walk, whenever I would go into a room, I can't hide my physical characteristics that indicate my heritage and my lineage. I cannot hide that. I can change my voice over the phone. Good morning, so how are you? I can fake you out that way. But if I meet you, you're going to know that that's a black guy, right? So I'm familiar with that. And I think that that's something that we have paved, we as African Americans have paved the way in that regard, because we've been here for 400 years dealing with that. And I would say that to answer your question, how do you deal with the racism, learn about the history of America and how things got to where they are, because we live in a time now where people just deal with the sound bites, of what happened yesterday. When you understand the history, then you can begin to appreciate, and then you'll see that all of the immigrant groups, whether they were Muslim or not, all faced different things. It's no different for us. But this is our time, and Allah is making it more knowledgeable for people. More information is coming out on Islam, so you then have to be stronger. You have the tools, giving you some recommendations. Take advantage of those tools, learn about the history, and know that not everybody hates you. There's maybe some people in the government or something, but there's a difference between let's say the average individual who's just like you or me, and then let's say a person in authority. So that's something that if you take it from that perspective and meet people where they are, you'll build relationships that way. Inshallah. Yes, brother.
What is the best thing? What's the best part of Islam that you really like? Is it up to your expectations? What did you expect and what did you get?
What was the best thing? How can you say something's the best when everything's the best? Alhamdulillah. I mean, I always say that when you're to me, like how you get on you ever been to the airport and they say, yes, what's your name, sir? Muhammad Ahmed. Okay. By the way, we're upgrading you to first class. You're like, oh, first class? Yes, sir. Take the first row behind the pilot. To me, that's what Islam is. You're always in first class. Allah is always blessing the Muslim. So whether you're going to the Masjid, coming to something like this, going to Hajj, praying to Hajj, praying to Tarawih. So there's no best thing I can say, because I wouldn't want to say that, but it's all good as we know. And it's like, I feel like that's how it is. Wherever I'm at, I'm always in the best position being Muslim.
The reverts require a lot of help from the Muslim community, and many of us understand that, many of us do not, and many of us do not understand how to support, and you have experienced that firsthand. So, I mean, what is your suggestion, or what is your experience about that you can share with us?
Sure. Yeah, I have a very dear friend who actually was sitting in the Masjid the day I took Shahada. I didn't know him at that time. And the minute I came out of the Masjid, you know, and he greeted me, but I didn't really pay attention. And he said, you know, where do you live? And I said, at that point I lived in Bayside. Wow, I live in Bayside too? He said, I live in Bayside too. You know, where do you work? You know, just started asking me questions, and he started recommending, you know, read this book, you know. At that time, it was like a lot of tapes and stuff available in front of the Masjid. Remember the tapes, you know? There was one brother, I still know him, he used to have tapes in front of the Masjid, Masjid al-Rahman in Manhattan. So that brother just befriended me. And he just, you know, like he latched on to me. And he would be like, hey brother, you know, Ramadan's coming. I was like, oh, okay, what do I do? You know, he was right there. He was right there. And it's not like he had to spend his whole life with me, but he did make himself available to me. And to this day, you know, we're friends, and we went to Hajj together. And he lives in California, but when I go to California, I always stay at least one day with his family. So, I mean, I think that you just have to be, you know, be someone's friend, you know. Be someone that, you know, they can talk to. And that's, again, it's up to the person. I mean, because you can try, but maybe they don't want to. But try your best to just support them, and then give them what you think is needed, that they might need at that time. And just make sure that you're giving them the most authentic information. And inshallah, you know, it'll work out. And then they'll find other resources as well. Any other questions?
Could you please share very, very first feeling and describe the situation when you, right before you took Shahada, the masjid, the people, and you were married before, right? During that time?
I was married, yeah.
And then how did you let your wife or your children know about it? And what happened, if you don't mind to share? You don't have to share everything, of course.
Well, I think the initial reaction, or the day that I came to the masjid that day, and I looked out into the audience, I was probably like, into the brothers there, I was probably like overwhelmed. You see the brothers when they take shahada, they're like, oh, subhanAllah. I mean, it's like, you can't believe it. You know, everybody, all of a sudden, all these people are hugging you, you don't know them. But I just felt, you know, this is the right thing, you know? I mean, I wasn't like, I'm not sure. I mean, it was like, Allah just put that certainty in my heart. And I felt like a burden had been lifted off of me, because, you know, I had, like I said, I was doing like anything like everybody else, but I felt like there was something missing. And when I felt like, you know, this is the thing that I can fully just get into, and it will involve my mind and everything, and I'll just be content, finally be content. As far as my family, I was telling them that I was thinking about it, you know, that I was thinking about accepting Islam. At that time, I was married to a woman, her father was a minister in the church. And they tried very much, you know, in a good way, to get me to join the church. Now, I used to go to the church, but every time that they would say, okay, anybody want to come up and join? I would sit back down. I never did it, you know. I never felt right, and then as I began to learn about Islam, I realized I could never do that. So my wife at the time, she felt like, you know, it's good, you know, it's okay. My husband's a Muslim now. But as time went on, it became a problem, because she's very much into the holidays and all the different things, and, you know, she wants to do things according to that, and I was getting away from that. So it started to create a problem. You know, alhamdulillah, we have a good relationship. We have a daughter together, and, you know, and I always, you know, anything that I could do for her, you know, and she's has ultimate respect for me and everything. You know, my mother passed away, and she made chicken, and she said, it's halal. You know, so something went inside, you know, so alhamdulillah for that. But unfortunately, that didn't work out. But Allah blessed me with a new family, a new wife, alhamdulillah. And, you know, they just met the 2 wives, you know, and all the other women were like, they thought there was going to be a fight, you know. But now they meet, they hug each other, you know, it's so beautiful, you know. But I believe it's because of Islam. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. Jazakallah khair, brothers. Thank you for listening to my words. And I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will accept all of your deeds in Ramadan and bless us to complete the full days and make this a day that Allah will, you know, remember that we tried our best to be good Muslims. Ashhadu an la ilaha astaghfiruka subhanaka wa bihamdik wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum. Subhanallah. What's her name?
Sahla. Easiness. Easiness.
Like that.
Yeah, Sahla.
MashaAllah.